Anybody have any flex layouts? Clear? No doubt. How many of you completed the task? Hmm? అయిపోయింది. Yeah, madam. Yeah. Cool. So today we'll be discussing about new topic called transitions, transforms, and animations. Okay. So next pending topics what we have. Let me create a new file. Let me this. Okay. So the pending topics that we have in front of us now with the first one is transitions. So transform queries. Okay, so these are the concepts that we need to cover today. Okay, so if you go with the transition, okay, what is the difference between normal selectors and the pseudo selectors? Anyone? What is the difference between normal selector and pseudo selectors? Particular? Okay. What is the major difference compared to other selectors? What this deals with? Hmm? Tell me what it deals with. Okay, so far if you see the pseudo classes deals with the particular state of the element. So usually the selectors deals with selecting of my element, but pseudo classes deals with the selecting of its particular state, nothing but hover state, maybe active state, maybe this type of states. Okay. So for example, what I'll do, let me create a div. Okay. So now what I need to go into. Okay. So this thing. So if you go to the browser and check the output, so this is what my output, right? So now if I want to change its background color and height or width based on the state, so that means on hover state, I want to change few properties, like Okay, so if you see, whenever users hovers on it, I want to make it like this. Okay, so I want to show like this. Okay, so but if you see, I was able to achieve my goal by using the pseudo classes. But is it looking good? Like what? See, if I quickly hover on it, it will come quickly and it will go off. So user will not know what particular element he triggered that particular animation or whatever it may be. So what we need to do, if you want to make the user to make it user friendly or make it more low, we need to deal with the duration of this particular action, right? How it was happening. So to deal with this type of duration, that is where transitions comes into the picture. So transitions usually work with only pseudo classes. However, pseudo classes works only with the states. Even transitions is work with only states only. It will not work for the normal elements. So for example, what I'll do, so I give a property to my parent like transition duration, like 3 seconds. Okay. So now if you see, so what happened? Hmm? So to get my, what we say, view of my image, it was taken 3 seconds, right? So now it was again, it was slowly coming and also going to the slowly, right? So what I was doing here, so for the parent, I was just mentioning like how much time it should take when any states are applied, like whether it may be what we say hover state, maybe any states if I apply to this particular element. So I was telling that take this much time, minimum 3 seconds to, like sorry, take 3 seconds to apply those changes, like whether it is image maybe, or whether it is what we say normal width maybe, height maybe, this all will take how much time? 3 seconds. So there is one more property like background proper, sorry, transition property. Why we got this file? I'll give as width if I give. Okay. So now let's get back and see. So can anybody tell me what is the difference happened here? Hmm? Can anybody tell me what happened here? Hmm? No, previously when I give this property, see, just check. I was just commenting it out and see the difference. Excuse me, sorry. What happening? Did I save it? Now I'll add this property. Hmm? Yeah, I guess it's not supporting actually. So when I give like transition property, what it will deal with is, it will tell that, for example, I don't want to deal with width, or else I don't want to deal with height. I want to deal with only one direction. In such cases, I'll use this transition property to handle it. That means I'll tell that you take the only, if I give width, my transition properties will work only, these 3 seconds will work only for the width. Height will immediately expand. So let me do one thing. Here, if you see, I have mentioned width of 250 px, right? But did I mention any height here? But in the second place, I was mentioning both height and width. So that's why if you see, when I remove, height is immediately getting shrink. But what about the width? Width is slowly getting shrink, because the width property I have both in parent and the state. But for example, let me give height here also. So what is the height I'll give? Height of 50 px. Okay, now I give it 250 px height. So now if you see, this is what my element is looking like. Now if you see, now my animation, how it is applying, getting applied. Both height and width are accepting. So what it means is, so whatever the properties that you give here, okay. So if you are following the same in the state also, and if in such cases, if you deal with transition, okay, now let me give here width, okay, and see what happens. Understood what happened? Width is taking slowly 3 seconds, but height immediately it is going back to its normal state. It is giving me quickly animation and quickly again getting back, because I was dealing only in my transition with the width, not with the height. If I just interchange and give height here, okay, now if you see, width got immediately increased, but height is gradually reducing. So now what happened? This is how I can slow down or fasten my particular process of my element. Okay, so that is what my transition will do. It will help me to deal with the duration of that element, how much time I need to handle that element, also how much time I can handle or make that element to increase or decrease or give any property, not only about height or width, background maybe, color maybe, anything we can handle by using this transition property. Got it? So next what we have. Here. So we given transition duration, transition property. So next we will be having transition timing function. Okay. So let me give easy in. So let's get back to the if you just check carefully, when it started, it is getting starting slowly, right? But when you see it is getting ended, it was little bit fast. Why? Because what is this transition timing function will do is, it will mention that, for example, I don't want the animation, my transition to happen with the same speed all the time. I want starting to be fast and ending to be slow, or else my ending to be fast and starting to be slow, or starting and ending to be fast and middle should be slow. So, or else If I give 10 seconds, each second I need to deal with different speeds. So if you want to deal with these type of all things, so that is where my transition timing function came into picture. So timing function, it will tell how we want to make our transition. So when I give easy in property, it was telling that start slowly but end quickly. If I give easy out property, start fastly and slowly. But if I give easy in and out, it mentions that starting and ending will be slow, but in between will be fast. So it will be not that much huge difference that you will be noticed by using these properties. Why? Because it will be very fraction of seconds difference you will see. But if you want to see the clear difference, like how it is working, then you can use this cubic Bezier or calculation. So if you see, I was having 4 values here. So each value deals with one particular axis. Which axis? X-axis, Y-axis, negative X-axis, negative Y-axis. So like this, you can deal with 4 different values, cubic Bezier and calculation. Calculation is nothing but you can, by using advanced concept of these two, you can tell that if I have a 5 seconds, how you can divide that 5 seconds. Okay. For each second, how you want to apply your transition, fast or slow. This all can be handled by using this calculation cubic Bezier. So these are the advanced concepts of transition timing function. Okay. So for example, now if you see, when I keep my pointer on it, immediately it is getting applied. I don't want to apply like that. I want to make it some delay. So what I'll do, that is where I'll give like transition delay. For example, if I give 3 seconds, okay. Now if you see what happened, after 3 seconds only, see, now it got stuck. Again, my transition is getting back only after 3 seconds. Got it? So that is how my transition will be working. Like, sorry, transition delay will be working. Is it clear? Anybody have any doubts how this transition is working? Now see, each property is dealing with one thing. Duration is dealing with how much time I want my duration of the changes, how much time it should take to apply these changes, and delay will property will tell that which direction you want to apply, and timing function will tell that how you want to deal with it with the transition, and delay will tell that how much delay you want to keep to your transition. If you see 3 seconds delay, then only my image is getting updated. Again, if I remove, it will take 3 seconds delay, and then only it was getting back to its original state. Got it? So is there any doubt so far with these 4 properties? Clear?
Yes, sir.
So online people, everyone clear, right? Anybody have any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. So when you're dealing with the animations, for not only with the animation in CSS, each and every property will have a shorthand property. So what is meant by this shorthand properties called? For example, just imagine when you're given a property called border, what it was doing. It is giving a border in all the directions. For example, if you want to give only border in one particular direction, how you can do that? Border hyphen top. It will apply only on the top side border. Border bottom. Border left, border right. Padding also. Padding top, padding bottom, padding left, padding right. Okay. Or else next margin. Margin top, margin bottom, margin left, margin right. So like this, if you take any property, most of the properties will have child properties. So, but what we are doing, we are easily giving all the directions by using these shorthand properties. In the same way, this all the transitions also can be handled by using this single shorthand property, that is nothing but parent property. Also, we can call it as transition. We can directly call it as a, we can give individual, or else if you want to reduce the lines of code, you can directly use parent and you can use this properties. So first value always will be the duration. How much time you want to deal with the transition? How much time? 3 seconds. So next one will be, if you want to use property, then property will be first case. So if you don't want to use property, it's not a big deal. With property or without property will give me the same output. So first will be property, next will be duration, next will be timing function. So next will be delay. How much delay you want to do? So now let us comment this out. Okay. And now if you see, let's check whether I'll get my output or not. See, am I getting the same output or not? Again, when I remove here, it is taking 3 seconds to get back to its position. So how these are happening? Because I was directly using my shorthand property. But if you see the transition, whatever you are applied, these are not by default getting applied to my parent. It was applying only on a particular state. Got it? So that's how my transitions will usually work. Transitions will not work for the normal elements. Okay. So it will work only for my stated elements. Got it? States you already checked. Pseudo classes when you're discussing what all the states will be there. So for any state, if you're simply to say, if you are making any change, not only in the states, for example, if you are making any change to that element, okay, like on click maybe, okay, these type of also like changes only, states only. So in such cases, you can use this transitions and apply your particular properties. Clear? Is there any doubts? Okay. So, pardon? You can use. So let me give an input here. Outside of it. Okay. Input is a tag element, right? You see, input is why it didn't got applied. Input is a tag, not a class, right? We just given with class name. So that is why it got that issue. See, are you getting or not? Now you are typing, but it is on the top of my image. Okay. So let me do one thing. Are able to see? You can give it to any element. It's not about a div or anything. You can give to any particular tag. You can deal with these transitions. Clear? Anybody have any doubts? Okay. Online people, anybody have any doubts? I'm asking you people, online people, anybody have any doubts?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, cool. So now let's get back to our next topic. Nothing but transform. Okay. So now for the same element, however transition is working. So transition and transform are, it's like a sibling properties, we can call it as. So we can even include the transition properties into the, sorry, transform properties into the transition in the shorthand property by using the, what we say, advanced CSS syntax. Okay. So for example, what is the major difference between transitions and transform is, my transition is working on a particular state wise, but transform is not like that. By default also, it will apply to the element, and also on a particular state also, it will apply to my element. So for example, so let me give transition, let it be, but also I was giving transform here. So what I'll do, I'll give a property called transform scale of 1.2. Okay, I given like this 1.2 value, and let me comment out these height and width values. Okay. So now if you see, I don't want delay, so let me get back and remove the delay. So for example, if you want to remove any value here in the shorthand property, that position will be occupied by next coming property. For example, if I want to remove easy in, next property, that place will be occupied by which one? Delay. So that means 3 seconds space 3 seconds. First value 3 seconds deals with the duration, second value deals with the delay. Got it? So better and create a child inside of it, then it will be clear for you. Yeah. So if you see transition, what it is doing, transform, when you give transform scale of 1.2, it was just expanding my element. It is just moving forward. So that means if you give a background color, then you can see. For example, my element is within my parent, but when I give a transform, it was giving me a way of just expanding, popping out. So if I give a negative value, like 0.6, okay, now if you see what it is happening, compressing. So what is this transform? When you deal with transform, there are three major properties usually you will see. Not all the properties, usually you will see these. So okay, scale is one, and scale, skew, and rotate. So major properties that you will usually see, but there are many properties that you will see when you go under this transform and transition. Okay. So what this scale is doing, it is helping me to expand my element and compress my element. So if you want to see this in a live, let me give you briefly. So if you see here, what happened? My element is normally, but on a particular state, what I was doing, here there is no more animation. What I am doing, by default, I given some width to that element. So whenever the user hovers on it, I was giving a transition of 1.5 seconds, and also along with it, I was giving a scale of 1.2. 2. So if you inspect this code and check what we are doing. So same thing applies here also. See, scale we are applying. So by default we have, if you see, what all we have, minimum height we have, and display justify content align. Okay. So this is the one, right? Sorry. So let's see what all the properties we given on hover state. See, I was giving on hover, I was giving a transform scale of 1.3. So if I give increase this value to 1.4, that is 1.5. See what happened? It is overlapping on other elements. So because my element is not increasing its width or height, it was just popping into the front side. Okay. So due to this, your layout will not be disturbed, but it will come on top of the other elements. Got it? So that's how my transform will work usually. Okay. So, but if you see here, let me give a single value here. If I give a single value like instead of 0.6 or 1.4, I'll give one value here. And let's see, is there any change? Why? Because 1 is the 0th value, we can call it as, there will be no change. If you want to compress, you need to give less than 1, or if you want to increase, you need to give more than 1. But don't ever give like more than 1.5 to any element. Why? Because if I just give 1.8 to this one, now you can see how much bigger it will grow. See how much bigger it became. So it usually transform scale will be less, you need to maintain like 1.1 point, that then only you'll get a proper animation. If you want to make it more time you need to take, and you want to expand your element more, in such cases you can use this more value, but you usually use the less value for the good results. Got it? So I don't want 3 seconds, let it make it 1 second. See, like this, my transform scale will work. So in the same way, for example, if I give skew properties, skew of 45 degrees. What happened here? So when I give scale, it is applying in the front way. Okay, but skew is direction axis based. That means whenever I give a animation, if I have a rectangle, it will tilt to the 45 degrees. For example, if I make it 360 degrees, understood what happened? For example, if you consider a one box you kept in a straight way, when I give skew, it will rotate in a complete side. That means first it will rotate in the left to right, the clockwise. Then again it will rotate. Simply to say, x2 minus x side it will rotate. Also y2 minus y. Both the directional rotation happens at a time. For example, for this element, if I give rotate. So what happens? Rotate means, see, it was rotating in any one direction, whether clockwise or anti-clockwise. If you give positive values, as a given 360, it is rotating in clockwise. When I remove, again it is getting back to its position. So here it is happening only in the, for example, one direction. If you take a graphical reference, it is rotating from x to minus x, again minus x to x. But when you go with the skew, it is not like that. So it is rotating x to minus x. Also same time, it is also rotating from minus y to y. That means both the directions my rotation is happening at a time. Got it? 3D, 3D view of rotation. But when you go with the rotation normal value, it is just rotating in clockwise or anti-clockwise. Clear? So that is the difference between a, which one? Skew and rotate. Got it? So there are 3D animations also if you go with the, sorry, 3D transform also available if you check. Okay. So try to check that properties. 2D transform and 3D transforms will have. Okay. We just started only very basic property we discussed. That's it. Okay. So still 90 to 95% of the concept is there in depth. Okay. Try to go in depth and check what it will you will use. I just mentioned what are the general use properties we use usually. But if you want to grow in CSS and you want to become a very good developer in CSS, try to go in depth with each and every property. There are hundreds of properties that will make your work very less and give more animations to your web application if you check this. Clear? So online people and offline, anybody have any doubts with these concepts? Transition and transform. Anybody have any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. So next we'll be going to discuss about animations. Okay. So animation is nothing but it will also work with the both like transition and transform, but it is little bit different. So here if you see transitions and transform, it is dealing with single instance. That means only one time application. But animation is not like that. Animation will give us the privilege of accessing the element and it will tell how much time you need to do that animations or how many times you want to do. This all can be mentioned, dealt by using this which property? Animation. So for example, so let me comment out this and okay. Let me enable this image. Okay, let me remove this one. So I given like background image, background size 100%. So same way, whatever the properties we have for transition, animation, we are going to get the same properties, but here transition duration, there animation duration. Okay. So animation duration, let me give off 5 seconds. Okay. Now if you see, it isn't working. Give me a sec. It's not working. It should. So what I was looking for is transition and transform will be worked on a particular state, right? That means once the page is get loaded, then only it will apply. But animation is not like that. It will apply as soon as my page get loaded. It will not wait for the user. So I was trying for that only, but it wasn't working. Yeah. So let me do one thing. So here you will get introduced with a new concept called as @keyframes. Okay. So what is this @keyframes will mention is, so for example, as I mentioned, what is the advantage of using animation? It can tell that how much time you want to deal with the animations, or how many times, or for each, for if I give 5 seconds, for each 5 seconds, you can divide first second what you want to do. This all can be done by default as soon as my page get loaded. So now if you see here, my animation, whenever I was created, I given a name called image underscore slide. Okay. So sorry, when I use this @keyframes and the animation name, I can deal with two states. That means starting what is the properties I want to apply to that element, and ending what I need to apply. Like for example, I have from, that means starting point is a from. Okay, I'll give like background as I'll deal with, let's view this one. Okay, and when it's come to end, I want it to have this image. Okay, but why it wasn't working? It's working. So if you see now, as soon as my page is getting loaded, what happening? My animation is getting applied. Is it waiting for any event there, like clicking or hovering state? No. As soon as my page get loaded, immediately my animation is getting applied. That means I given the @keyframes we are using. That means starting what it should be, ending what it should be. So I was telling, take my animation for 5 seconds as soon as my page get loaded, and within that 5 seconds, first second it should be this image, and then gradually go back to the fifth second to that second image. Then again what happens, once the animation is done, again it gets back to its original state. Okay, so now, so that is the advantage that my @keyframes is giving me. So this @keyframes is not only dealing with the starting and ending stage, it also deals with the individual state. For example, 5 seconds I given, so I can divide it into 5 parts. That means 5 seconds I can give 5 different properties. Like what I'll do, first I'll divide into 5 parts. So how I can divide? 0%, then 25%, right? That's it, right? Next, 50%, then 75%, and 100%. 100%. Okay. So these are the 5 parts. I was divided into 5 parts. So now what I'll do, I'll take 5 different images. Okay. So starting, I want this. Okay. At the 25%, I want like, let me choose some other image. Okay, I was choosing other image. And I was giving Yeah. So now also I'll give some other properties. So not only background, let me give rotate, I'll give something. So rotate of 360. Sorry, rotate, right? Sorry, transform rotate. Transform rotate of 360 degree I given. So I'll use the same properties for the next one. 50% at the 50% stage, I want to give some other background image. Yeah, the properties will be same. So let us choose one more image, this one. Okay, now we have 4 different images, right? Sorry, 3, right? Oh. So 3 different images. So let me copy this and give it here quickly. Background. Image. Also here also. Background. Image. URL. Okay. So now what I'll do, same properties I'll give here. I want it to rotate. Okay, let it be 360. I'll make it. Instead of rotate, I'll give scale property, scale of 1.2. Or again, I'll give 360. So let's choose next 2 different images. Yeah. So let us increase the time of our animation. Let us make it 10 seconds. Why? Because 1 second immediately, quickly it will happen, right? So let us increase it to 10 seconds. So if you see, here is my property and I was applying here, but how I was interlinking both of them? By using its animation name. If you see here, there is a name we given, animation. Okay. So let me segregate the properties for you. See now, my animation is applying for 10 seconds totally. Or else, did I given 5 seconds or 10? Okay, 10 seconds only. So I can even make it shorthand by writing in a single line, but I was just repeating, no issues. But when you are writing for any working purpose, just don't use this type of repeating properties. You use the shorthand properties or anime. So now if I reload again, so let me reload. See, first I have one image and it is within 2 seconds I was getting changed. And also next I was getting one image and see, it done. So again I got back to my original state of my image. Got it? So now if you see, my animation is applying only for how much time? 10 seconds. After that, what happening? My image is, sorry, my proper, all the animations are getting back to its original state, right? So, but I don't want it to be end by one time. Okay, I want it to give for some time, I need to make it run. So in that cases, what I'll do, animation iteration count is the property which will give me the, let me give 5, okay, and let me reduce duration. So now if you see, I got applied with all the 5 images or not. Again, I got started with my animation. So how many times it is going to get applied?
5 times.
So after five times it got applied, what happens? Automatically, my page, my element will get back to its normal state. For example, I want to make my element to be work infinitely. That means I don't want to end the animation. It should continuously happen. Okay, so in that case, what I'll do? Instead of 5 count, I'll make it infinite. So if I make it infinite, so now, one second. Let me, if you see, it is go on getting applied with all the properties. And see, is it going to end? How much time you may see, it will not end until unless user, even if the user goes to other pages also in the background, until unless this page is open, it will go on applying with this animation. But again, when the user is restarted, it will quickly restart from one again. So it's an infinite loop. So this is how you can make my animation work for my elements. So for example, let me do one thing. Let's make a small line. I want to make some change to my animation style. So I'll make like top of 0 px and left of 0 px at 0 position at the starting. Then I want it to make top of 0 px and left of 250 px. Okay. So then I want to make top of 100 px. Sorry, let me make it 250 px and left of. Can anybody tell me what I was doing? Hmm? Hmm? Anybody have any idea what I am doing? Hmm? I was just making a square. That means when the first stage I want to keep it at the point 1, then I want to move it left to the straight line 200 px, then I want to get it down 200 px, then again I need to get back to the left 200 px, then again I want to get it to the top. Square I was making with each and every stage. But now if I go back here, it will not work. It was in the same place. It was not moving anywhere. Why? Can anybody tell me? It should move actually, right? If I give direction, but it was not moving. Why? Tell me, guys, why it wasn't moving? Hmm? What? What is the default position of any element? In the static elements, is the directional properties will work. Then what? What you are thinking? Brain ఈడే ఉంది కదా ఇంట్లో పెట్టొచ్చారా? So if I didn't change the position of my element, how it is going to work with the directional properties? If I want to didn't affect the layout, then I need to go with relative property only, because it is the only property which will not affect my layout. Okay. Now if you see what happened, what's happening. So that is what we did. Each and every shape we are just moving the image. So here I made a square. Even you can make any animations that you can. If you see now, if you go to any website, it will be popping up and down images you may have seen now, right? like some balls, like if you see some websites, the animations like balls will be falling, like image will be rotating in the screen. This all how we are doing, just by using this basic animation only. There is no advanced animation. So it is the basic animation, but how much you know in depth about that property, that will make you to use that much more of that privilege. Okay, so animation will give you many more properties that you can, like you can give the radiant buttons, like buttons like hovering, like on pointing, expanding buttons. These all are happening just with these three properties, which is nothing but transition, transform, and the animations. So by using these three, you can make any type of animation in the HTML and excuse me. I don't close it. Okay, so by using these properties, this gives us the advantage of using any type of animation. So here you will get one more property, same like animation timing function. So which is nothing but transition timing function. So it will give us the same privilege of what we have in the same thing, transition. Okay, sorry, animation timing function here. Animation timing function. Got it? So now there is one more advantage that we'll get when we compare with the transitions with the animation, that is direction. So here you will get a privilege of dealing with the direction, animation, direction. If I give like reverse, so what happened? So instead of clockwise, it is happening in the anti-clockwise. Got it? So for example, if I make like alternative, then what it will do? So if you see, the first time it will go in the clockwise, but the second time it will go in the anti-clockwise. Then again, third time what it will do? It will go in the clockwise. Nothing but alternative. Each time it will go in one direction. So if I make it alternate reverse, the starting will be reverse. Anti-clockwise it will go on. Anti-clockwise, clockwise, anti-clockwise, clockwise. So every time alternative, my animation is going to get applied. So that is how my animation direction is going to work. For example, I don't want my animation to work immediately as soon as my page get loaded. I want to load it only once my page get completely loaded. For example, it will take a time of 3 seconds, just imagine. Okay, so what I want to do for the 3 seconds, I want to hold that animation. So what is the property? Same transition delay, animation delay. If I give 3 seconds delay and if I reload, now if you see, are you able to see any change to my element? But after 3 seconds, immediately my animation is getting started. Got it? So this is how my animations is helping us by using @keyframe. Here we have used @keyframes just for dealing with multiple actions. So even we can do without using @keyframes also we can access animation. So in that case, how it will work? Why it wasn't working? Some issue is happening with the animation neurals. Okay, you please better try to check the animation neurals. Why? Because previously, even if we have an animation name or not, it doesn't matter because we are dealing with the duration. But now it was not allowing, it was just with name only, it was working. Okay, that's why you try to check once. Done. So, however, transition have a shorthand property, like we can directly give a single property and transition and you can write all the things. In the same way, you can deal with the animation also, like animation name, like next what it will be, animation duration, timing function, delay, and direction. Sorry, direction and delay. So like this, you can have a syntax. So try to check how you can deal with the shorthand properties. Clear? So is online people are clear?
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any doubts?
No, sir.
So can I go with the next step? So see, even for the transform, you have a shorthand property. For example, if you see where I use transform here, right? So I given scale. What if you want to give the rotate also at the same time? So I can give like, so now if you see what happens, both my scale and rotate will apply at the same time. You see, so like this also you can use multiple properties in a single line by using the shorthand property. So that's why first try to go in depth with each and every animation property individually. Then try to check how you can access all those properties single hand with the shorthand. That means with a single property. Like now I was accessing animation, timing, iteration differently. Try to check how you can access all this by using a single property called as animation. You have a property called animation. Okay, try to check how you can access all this by using a single. Okay, clear? So is everyone clear with these three topics what we discussed so far? Like at the rate keyframes, animations, transition and transform. Anybody have any doubts? Sure. Online people, are you clear? I'm asking you people, online people, is it clear?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Okay. So next we'll discuss about pseudo elements, what we missed last time. Okay, when we are dealing with the selector. So pseudo elements. So generally, what pseudo classes are doing, it is giving me the privilege of selecting a particular state. But pseudo element is nothing but it is giving me the privilege of creating a reflection of my element. That means whenever I use pseudo elements, there are two properties that you will get. One is after and before. So what this after and before are doing is, it is just creating a duplicate elements to my original elements. So for example, I created one element. I want to apply some properties on top of my element. So if I want to do like that, what I need to do? I need to create one more element and I need to make it overlap on that element, right? But by using the pseudo elements, it is giving me the privilege of creating a duplicate layer to that element. So original element will be there and also I'll have the duplicate layers. So I can assign that duplicate layer however I want it. So how it will work is, for example, I don't want this animation. Let me comment it. Yeah. So I have this element. Okay. And I want a dark background. Let me. Yeah. Okay, just imagine I have a image like this. So it is too light. Okay, that more light. That means the image is too bright. So I want to, what I need to do? I just want to cover this image with some layer, dark layer. Okay. So in that case, how I can do that? I have to create a new element and I need to keep on top of it. Right. So that means, for example, just imagine or else I'll do one thing. Stop wasting our time. I'll explain each and every class separately if you don't mind. As I am the one did this, so I know what each and every line will do here. So that's why I was just copying. Okay. Yeah. So if you see now here, so wait a sec. No issues. So first what I was doing, I just created a element by using a background. Okay. This is what my background image. And I given some text on top of it. Okay, like this, IT something. Now, if you see the image is too bright, I don't want it to be that much bright because I want to highlight my text. If you see this image here, my text is highlighted more than the image, but my image is there on the background, right? So for that, what I was doing, I was just creating a duplicate layer to my image. So how you can do duplicate layer to your element? So that is where two important properties comes into the picture, before and after. Okay. So if I create a paragraph like pseudo element, okay, for this one, I'll create okay. So let me create first one P, right? So let me create like not P. So pseudo elements will be indicated by double dot. Pseudo classes will be single colon, elements will be double colon. So after I'll use, okay, and I'll use like width of 20 px. Sorry, instead of 20, let me go to 50 px and border of 2 px solid green. And I'll give one major property here called as content. So content I'll call it as after. So if you see my paragraph, how many elements I created actually here? Where is my paragraph? I created only one paragraph, right? But how many elements I was getting here? 3. Why? Because see, I was getting one element as before, one element as after, right? So the same thing I was doing for this one also. So this is my original element. By using one more element duplicate layer I created, and I was just making it on the top of my element. So how you can do it is, for example, if you see the same element, let me take a div. Okay. So this is my element. So for pseudo element, okay. So I'll create an element called pseudo and I'll give height of 300 px, width of 800 px, and let me give a border of 2 px solid red. Okay. So now if you see, I created one element here, right? So I created my, which one? Class pseudo. For it, I created one more element called after. But still the same issue. Let me make it. It was mentioning that the element is inline. That means the pseudo elements are inline elements. So that's why it is not allowing. That's what it mentioned there. So let's see now where is my what it was telling error. There is error it was giving. So if you see, as I didn't give in any height or nothing, it is just not working anything. Why? Because as I said, you duplicate layer in the sense it is just a what we say an empty space that I was creating with that element. So in that empty space, whatever you want to write, you can give. Like if you want to make it 100 px width, you can give it. If you want to make it 200 px width, you can give it. So now if you see, I got created with two elements. Okay. So if you want to check which is after and which is before, I'll put elements like a and after, before. So if you see, the left one is the before, right one is the after, right? So now, how much width you may give to this element, that much it will work out. So that means if you see, let me give like width of 100%. Now if you see what happened, is it taking screen width or my other element width? Other element width. So in the same way, let me give height also 100%. And also let me give background of green. Okay. Then I'll go with the after. I'll give same thing, width of 100% and height of 100%. And I'll give background as blue. Okay. So let me go here and I'll give background of red. Okay. So now if you see, which layer I was able to see on the top, before or after? Before, because see, now if you see, my parent height, I given, what is the height I given for pseudo? 300 px. But is it going out of my parent or not? If you see my parent element, this is what my parent width and height. But my pseudo elements are going out of my parent. Why? Because here, however, relate the positions relative, absolute, fixed, and sticky. If I keep them one on one, which will have high priority? Sticky will be on the top. In the same way, between the before and the after, before is have the higher priority. So it will be the first, after will be next. So now if I want to make these two layers on top of my image, so if you see, if I just remove my background to my, see, is my original element is backside or there or not? But only my after element is gone away. So if I create one element after this, I'll create div class is equal to pseudo underscore boom. Okay, there is one element created, pseudo underscore boom. Let me create that class here. For pseudo underscore do, let me give yellow and height of 500 px, width of 500 px. Yeah. So now if you see, is my dupe image is anywhere visible, dupe element? Here it is not at all visible. Now what we will do, let's try one thing. This is the after element, right? Let me remove its background and check. It is not here. It is not next to the, but where it is? My element next pseudo dupe is there. It is located at, why I was not getting properties. Sorry. Why it got inside is because I given the class multiple times. Okay. So if you see now, let us get back these colors to the elements before and after. See, my original element is here. I given my some width and height to my this element. Also, I created one duplicate element. Sorry, next one more element. When I give these pseudo elements after and before, it is creating a duplicate layer. So due to this, what happening? It is not disturbing my layout, even though here my before is taking full height and width, then after is coming, but it is not affecting my next coming element. If you see, my next coming element is aram sitting next to the which one? This element. Elements are aligned properly. It is not affecting the layout, but what this after is doing, it is just sitting on top of my other element. It is just hiding it. As I said you, when you take a wall will be there, on top of it putty will be there, on top of it paint will be there, but user will be see only which is there on the top. But that doesn't mean that I don't have anything in the back side. Back side I have a bricks and all, right? In the same way here, when you take with absolute and sticky, this all also, when you keep one on one, the sticky will be on the top, but that doesn't mean that I don't have any other elements backside. Other elements will be hidden in the backside, right? So in the same way here, my first I have two elements, pseudo, right? Pseudo is one element and pseudo dupe is one element. So if you see, pseudo element is aram se here and pseudo dupe is next to it. But when I make the pseudo elements like before and after, see, before is occupied the full width of the first element, but there is no space left for it to use the within that. For example, if I make it height of 50% and after also height of 50%. Now if
I
you
thought so.
now if you see, is my both the before and after sat in the within my element or not? Within this element only both are there, right? Is it went out of that? It went out of that. No, it is sitting within the element because here I was accessing particular width, height there. So even though it is a duplicate layer, what it will do, it is just creating a new layer for the original element. It was just creating a duplicate layer on top of it, like positions. How relative absolute is working. In the same way, this also working, but there the elements are creating a new layer and affecting the layout. But here it is just creating the duplicate layer from itself. It is giving privilege of you can create two duplicate layers from me and you can use on top of me. That's what it is mentioning. So for example, now if I give like height of 100% first to the element, so it occupied the duplicate layer completely. So it doesn't have any more space, height or left width. So automatically it will overflow. That is what happening. If I give next element also height of 100%, overflow. Due to that overflow, what happening? It is just covering my next coming element. See, it is just covering my next element. Got it? But still my element is there on the back side. So if I make this element, let me give position relative. Now if you see what happened. Now both the elements are coming or not. Now my layer duplicate like after before layer went into the back side. So that is how my elements go. So same way, for example, just imagine my absolute element is going out of my parent. If I want to keep that within my parent, what I need to do? Parent should be relative. So same thing, for example, if I just give absolute to this element before or after, position as absolute. Now what happened? I'll give same to the before also. Position as absolute. So now see what happened. My both the elements are within my parent or not? Are they really within my parent? They will be within my parent. Why? Because if you use with the normal absolute to the elements, so if I use directly absolute to this element, okay, position as absolute and top 0 px. It was going top. Why? Because it is going out of my, there is no other elements. It will take body as the parent. But for the pseudo elements, it will not work like that because it will consider it as the parent. Like for example, position, let me give relative. Now if you see what happened. So previously also it is there within my element only, but it is overflowing. But now when I give relative, it makes a strict rule that my pseudo elements should not go out of my element. So if you see, if I remove after, before is there. If I remove before also, I have my original element there. So same thing I did here. First I given one element and I given a background to it. Then next, after using the after or before any one of the pseudo element, I just created a layer here. If you see, I just created one dark layer on top of it. See, background with the background, and I used the opacity. So if you see, opacity 0. I have a layer on top of it, but it's not visible. If I give 0.1 or else 2, how much opacity you will give? That much? 0.5. It is getting transparent. Simply to say transparent. So same thing happens here. For example, I apply a background to it. Both. Now only blue is visible, right? That means after element is visible. So if I make it, I have background, but I'll make it opacity as 0. What happened? My element became completely transparent. It became one glass type. I can see through that element what is there on the back side. But if it's 0.2 or 0.3, what happening?
I found this on the web.
Yeah, fuck. So what happening here? It is just transparency is getting more. For example, if I give 0 complete transparent, if I give 1, no transparent at all. So the transparent value will be in between 0 to 1 only. If you give 1, it will be completely 0 with no transparent at all. But if you give 0, it will become like a glass, complete transparent to the back element. So how you can do that? By doing this opacity. So usually whenever you want to make any element like light visible or when you want to make it completely visible, in such cases you can use this opacity value. Okay, so the pseudo element will be little tricky for understanding now, but you try to create. So don't, pseudo element is nothing but just helping me to create two duplicate layers by using my original element. So that is what my pseudo elements are doing before and after. So where you can use this by you generally where you can use this in this way. For example, if you say for this only we use pseudo element. Background I created one element. On top of it to make it light, I created one more layer on it. So also where else I used? Let me check. Wait, I'll show you one different examples also. Okay, they removed website. Actually, we had a website where we had Mm. Let me see whether I can check in Flipkart, will get any luck. So if you see here, this is my original element basically, right? So if you see not right side image, left side, there is a pointer. On that pointer, I have a box also, rectangle box you can see. If you see here, that highlighted box. So it is my original element. I given this much height. But on top of it, I was creating one pseudo element, okay, by using pointer. See, what I was doing, wherever I hover, that I link to that one more element on the right side. It's nothing but just pseudo element I was doing to just make that element look more. Okay, how you can explain it? Let me explain. Yeah, where is my point? I want somewhere where we used pseudo selector. Where there is no live example, not even a single. Everybody given basic examples. Okay, you people try to check once with pseudo selectors and try to create normal with element. If you get any doubt, just get back to me. Okay, I was trying to find an example, but I was not able to see any real examples. This is the only example that we can see. So as I was mentioning, pseudo element is nothing but it was just giving us the privilege of creating duplicate layer on top of it. Okay, by using the help of positions. So if you want to learn with pseudo elements, that you need to be thorough with the positions. That is why I skipped this topic on the day, because I want to explain you positions first, then I need to go with these things. So try to check once, and if you have any doubts with this, just get back to me. I'll just explain you the again this thing, pseudo element, if you have any doubts with a practical example. Okay. So online people, anybody have any doubts? I'm asking you people. Anybody have any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay, so offline, anybody have any doubts? So far, whatever the topics we covered apart from media queries, is everyone clear? Anybody have any doubts? Feel free to ask, because Monday, if there is a class, I'll take online. I'll be not going to come offline. Tuesday, I'll be having holiday. Wednesday, if possible, I'll clear this. Sorry, I'll start media queries because Bootstrap, we need this. So next week, completely it is about Bootstrap. And JavaScript basics, you will be get started with the next week ending. Okay. So try to you do whatever you want to go holidays, take anything next week only. Don't skip the classes, offline classes from the next coming week. That means when? What is the date today? 15, right? So next week will be 17 to 24, I guess. Or that means 22nd or 23rd after next week coming, right? So don't skip next week. Enjoy however you want. After that week, don't even neglect the classes. Come to the classes. Even if I'm not taking, someone will take you the JavaScript for sure. JavaScript, React, or whatever it may be. If you miss the basics, you are gonna lose many things. You'll not understand anything. It will be like watching a Korean movie without English subtitles. I'm telling. If you learn the basics very good, then what happens? Definitely, it will be like watching Telugu movie or Hindi movie with Hindi subtitles. That much easy it will be if you learn the basics. Okay. So that's what about today's session. So if you have any doubts, feel free to ping. Okay. Have a nice day, guys. Bye. Online people, no doubts, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can leave. Thank you all. So try to
Yes, sir.
create Achievers at your website at least more looking good now. You got animations and everything is covered. Try to replicate exact Achievers ID now using background images, everything. Text, positions, everything you know now. CSS. Known functionalities needed to create this Achievers ID website. Okay. So not even a single JavaScript functionality is needed apart from this. Which one? Apart from this one, you don't need anywhere functionality, right? Try to replicate exact, I want this layout, okay? Got it? You can, thank you guys. Have a nice day. Bye. You can leave now. If you have any doubts,